Can't hear. Is he saying something?
Good evening. My name is Ronald Hampton. I am the AARP District of Columbia State President. And it's a privilege to welcome you to tonight's Mayoral Candidate Forum, co-sponsored by AARP District of Columbia and the Washington Informer. I want to thank those of you watching as well as the candidates for joining us this evening. AARP, the District of Columbia, and the Washington Informer have brought together 4 candidates running for mayor so that you, the viewing audience, can learn where these candidates stand on issues of particular interest to older citizens here in the district and their family. These issues include escalating housing costs for people age 50 plus, sustaining living communities across the District of Columbia, food securities, paid family leave, and addressing health disparities. AARP has 83,000 members in the district, and the Washington Informer has over 63,000 and another 725,000 social media viewers across the District of Columbia. They will share what we've learned tonight with residents across the district. Again, thank you for joining us this evening. I will now turn it over to tonight's moderators, Lewis Davis Jr., the AARP District of Columbia State Director, and Denise Rolock Barnes, the publisher of the Washington Informer. Thank you.
Ronald Hampton, thank you. Ronald Hampton is my volunteer partner at AARP. We honor our volunteers from top to bottom. Our CEO has a volunteer, our national president is a volunteer, our board is led by volunteers. So at AARP, we can't do what we do around the country without our volunteers. So thank you, Ron, for your service and for your service here in the District of Columbia. Ron is a retired Metropolitan Police officer and a Vietnam War veteran. So thank you for all of your service, Ron. And to my left,
I'm Denise Rolock Barnes. I'm publisher of the Washington Informer. And Louis, I have to say, I was a proud volunteer, AARP volunteer as a state president once upon a
you
time.
sure were.
So I guess that tells our viewers a little bit about me and why I'm really excited to be a part of this forum this evening. So we're happy to have with us Mayor Muriel Bowser, Councilmember Robert White, and Mr. James Butler. And each one of you will have the opportunity to give an opening statement. Each statement will be only 30 seconds. Please understand you'll have much longer times to answer questions as we go through this forum, but we have a 30-second opening. So we're going to start with you, Mayor Bowser.
Well, thank you. I want to thank the Washington Informer and AARP for pulling us all together. I am a proud 25-year public servant. I've had the great opportunity to serve my city as an ANC commissioner, a council member, and a mayor. And I'm asking for your support again to make sure that we can come back from COVID and focus on the big issues that residents are concerned about. And that's going to take leadership, experience, and know-how. And we know how to deliver for Washington, D.C.
Thank you very much, Mayor Bowser. Councilmember White.
Thanks so much to AARP and the Informer for having us. I'm Robert White. I'm an at-large council member, a fifth-generation Washingtonian, a husband, and a father. I am a proven problem solver. I've worked in government as a lawyer for the past 15 years on both the local and federal level. I've worked on nationally leading early childhood education legislation expanding voting rights, and I've worked to hold developers accountable and really see the needs of the people who have been left behind in our city. The challenges facing us are incredible: rising violent crime, schools that aren't working for children of color, and lack of progress on affordable housing. Those are the issues that I'm going to solve as mayor. I'm ready to lead our city to the next chapter on day one. We know what we get with the status quo, and too many people are being left behind. It's time for a change, so I'm asking for your vote.
Thank you very much. And now we'll go to you, Mr. Butler, Mr. James Butler.
Good evening, DC. And thank you to AARP and the Washington Informer for all that you do to spread useful information and further the ends of democracy. As was mentioned, I'm James Butler, and I'm running to be the district's next mayor. I'm a proud Washingtonian. I'm equally proud to be the only non-career politician in this race running for mayor. I'm a former ANC residing in Ward 5. I'm also a former civil rights lawyer. As a lawyer, I've sued state governments, city governments, municipalities, and I learned how government works. As an ANC commissioner, I've had the opportunity to see the fault lines and the problems with the district's very own government.
Thank you.
As your next mayor.
Mr. Butler, we are over our 30 seconds. Thank you very much. We can add more of that later on. Do we have Councilmember White?
Trayon White.
Trayon White, thank you. No. Okay.
We'll start, and he will have missed his 30 seconds opening, and we'll just start the questions.
Okay, very much. And while we're at it, I just want to let those who are in the audience and watching know that we have our set of questions that we'll be asking the candidates, but we welcome your questions in the chat. We may not get to them all, but we want you to feel free to ask your questions, and we will get to them as we can. Our first question, and again, we're going to start in the same order, is about senior hunger. There are more than 30 government-funded services and programs to help seniors get enough food. Still, according to more than one source, over 13% of seniors in the district are experiencing food insecurity. If elected, what policies would you put in place to help ensure that no district senior goes without a nutritious meal? We'll start with Mayor Bowser. You have 2 minutes to answer this question.
Thank you for that question. And I think an overarching issue that we have, Denise, with our senior population is isolation. And we have worked very hard with our Department of Aging and Community Living to address isolation. Because the truth is, as you've mentioned, we have so many services for low-income seniors that can connect them to food and food resources that no one in a city as prosperous as ours, none of our seniors should be experiencing food insecurity. So part of our mission is to make sure that in all 8 wards that we have our lead agencies working with our Department of Community Living to ensure that people are connected to resources. We had the opportunity during our response to the pandemic to try more delivery services, which we did. Seniors who had connected to meals at all of our senior facilities were having meals delivered to them. Seniors were going to schools where we were providing food for not only school children, but families in need as well. And we're putting food closer to where people live. I've been very proud that we have opened or broken ground on the first full service grocery store in Ward 7 in 20 years and added grocery to Ward 8 and are allowing more people who have food benefits to connect via farmers markets and delivery services. We also have to continue to work with the federal government. I lead for the U.S. Conference of Mayors Food Policy Council, and part of our advocacy has been that the federal government extend some of the expanded food benefits that our residents received with SNAP, WIC, and other federal food benefits.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. Councilmember White.
Thank you so much for the question. The District of Columbia has the highest rate of food insecurity for seniors in the nation, which is a statistic that we can't tolerate here in the District of Columbia. So there are several things that I'm going to do as mayor. First, I'm going to move our focus from larger grocery retailers to smaller ones, similar to what we had until the 60s and 70s here in the city, so that we have smaller grocers pulling produce from our region, employing our local residents, and getting more healthy food options into our communities. We need an intense focus on supporting and expanding our food delivery services for seniors. Those programs have taken a hit. We need to make sure seniors who don't have mobility or transportation have access to fresh foods. And that is going to require us to look at some tech solutions as well. We have made great strides in the tech space, and we can start using these strides to bring groceries to our seniors. We're looking at programs like DoorDash and Peapod. These are programs that are getting food to people. We can use those and utilize them as a government. But we also have to look further than that. When I was at the Robert Walker House on Savannah Street in Southeast earlier this week, they said that the store closest to them, that a lot of them go to get groceries, doesn't have fresh foods and are overcharging them. This means that our government needs to push our local businesses harder on these issues, but also support them to make sure our local stores are getting fresh foods and groceries, because a lot of our seniors are utilizing our neighborhood stores or corner stores as the primary space for their groceries. But even if they have fresh foods, guess what? The seniors at St. Paul's in Ward 8 told me 2 days ago that they don't feel safe walking to the store. So we need to make our community safer, so that even if we have fresh foods at the store, seniors don't feel too afraid to go and get them. The final thing I'll say here is I'll continue the work as mayor that I've done on the council, expanding our community dining program, which I've funded for the past 2 years, specifically for our LGBTQ senior community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember White. And now you, Mr. James Butler, you have 2 minutes.
That we're even talking about this is problematic. We have 2 city leaders on this debate here tonight discussing problems that should have been eradicated a long time ago with nearly a $20 billion budget. I am very much aware of the food insecurity amongst our seniors. I have personally almost been to every senior home, partnering with Whole Foods and Trader Joe's to deliver free food, because these seniors are suffering in a city as wealthy as the nation's capital. That is precisely the problem that we have by recycling complacent politicians time and again. And it is time that DC cleans house. This starts with robust access and oversight to ensure that, one, we know what seniors actually need and are hunger insecure, and then that they are aware of our programs and that we provide what they need. Partnering with our Department of Community Planning, ensuring that we couple that with robust technology solutions with Uber Eats and those sorts of things. We can subsidize that with our Department of Community Outreach. We can also ensure that Meals and Wills and those sorts of programs are connected with our seniors through adequate outreach. So we must ensure that every department in the district has adequate outreach. And that's what I will do from day one, including those seniors that are hunger insecure, where I, as a private citizen, will no longer be relegated to delivering food on my own to senior buildings.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. Louis, want to go next?
I do. Thank you. Reminder to the audience, you have a chance to ask questions as well. Begin putting them in the chat. We have a chance to get to them as soon as we can. Reminder to our candidates as well. You have 2 minutes to answer a question, as you've heard. If you hear your name invoked by another candidate, you'll get 30 seconds to rebut. So 2 minutes to answer. And if you hear your name invoked, you get 30 seconds to respond. Our next question has to do with broadband. And it's for our audience to know we're busy here at the dashboard here. Councilmember Trayon White was invited, and he is trying to join us and should be on any second. And we'll weave him in. Many nonprofit organizations, city agencies, such as the DC Public Libraries and places of worship in the district, provide access to the internet in under-resourced communities. While these institutions provide a bridge, the district needs a better strategy to close the digital divide. Question: if elected, what would you do to make sure that nonprofits with expertise in community-based broadband connectivity, our public libraries, which are some of the best in the country, and capable houses of worship, play a lead role in developing and executing a broadband infrastructure plan for the District of Columbia? And the candidates' orders of response are Robert White, Councilmember Robert White, James Butler, and then Mayor Muriel Bowser, and then Councilmember Trayon White. So we'll start with you, Councilmember at large, Robert White.
Well, the first thing that we're going to do, and I appreciate the question, is utilize federal infrastructure monies, which is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to bring universal broadband to our entire city. But we need to make sure that the speeds are fast enough for modern life, where people get their education, look for jobs, access their entertainment from their laptops, from their phones. And so we need to make sure everyone in our city and every part of the city has access to strong broadband internet. But then we need to make sure that we are supporting our local organizations like Bite Back, that does digital literacy for seniors, the Washington Literacy Center, which does some very similar work. We need to make sure we are supporting them so that our seniors who are not already tech savvy get the training they need to really operate in what is an increasingly virtual world. So we have a lot of resources at our disposal. What is important when we get this $3 billion in federal infrastructure money is that we have a mayor who can implement, who can make this program work for everybody, but also focus on our local organizations that are already doing so much of the work. As you mentioned in the question, we have our houses of worship and our public libraries, some of the best in the country, that are sources of programming, but also community centers. We have to utilize them for programs within our city and really encourage our established programs to do community programs from these spaces that are already very well utilized and really have the attention of our communities.
Thank you, Councilmember White. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been joined now by Councilmember Ward 8, Trayon White. Mr. White, you'll have 2 minutes to close at the end, like everyone else, in a closing statement. We'll reread the question, and you'll get a chance to answer this question last. But welcome to tonight's forum. And we're talking here about broadband connectivity. And when we get to you to answer the question, you can introduce yourself as well at that time. Okay, sir? Right now, James Butler is next in answering the question. If elected, what would you do to make sure that nonprofits with expertise in community-based broadband connectivity, our public libraries, and capable houses of worship play a lead role in developing and executing a broadband infrastructure plan here in the District of Columbia? Mr. Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. We will ensure from day one that we engage the relevant demographics. We know oftentimes seniors in bridging that technological divide, it's very important that they understand where the technology is. We will make sure that we're operating as a world-class city. There are cities in this country now that are fully broadband cities where you can go anywhere in the city and you can access broadband. That's what we will do from literally day one. We will ensure that we go into our senior homes, senior places of worship, or places of worship where seniors attend, and ensure that they have information on the availability of broadband. It's just not enough that we bring it. We must engage our seniors so they understand that it's here. They not only understand that it's here, but how to use it. Actually, it is quite a problem that we're talking about this in 2022 when several cities across the country have already implemented it. This is the type of failed leadership that DC must not repeat and repeat. It is time that we clean house and get decisive, prepared leadership that will look out for our seniors in every aspect.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. Mayor Bowser.
Well, thanks for the question. In this week, actually, we've been focused on our infrastructure and building out our infrastructure and partnering with the Biden administration on the ARP dollars that are coming to the district. A big focus of those dollars, as you know, is on broadband access and working with jurisdictions to get those dollars out the door. The president has appointed the former mayor of New Orleans to be his point person, and Mayor Andrew, I have worked with very closely in our leadership roles among America's mayors, and we will continue to work closely to make sure that the district not only gets all of the formula dollars that we are entitled to, but we will be in a position to compete for competitive dollars among U.S. states. I can say without a doubt that I have the most experience delivering federal dollars and doing it in an emergency manner, doing it comprehensively, doing it working with the district CBEs, and in the process setting up systems that have saved lives during our response to COVID. I've also, during the last 2 years, our DC Department on Aging and Community Living has worked directly with seniors on expanding their access to devices, and we will continue to do that. I have also set up an infrastructure task force that is industry leaders and community leaders who are going to help us devise plans and source ideas about how to deliver not only for broadband, but infrastructure dollars that connect communities, fix bridges, and make our streets safer.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. Ward 8 Councilmember Trayon White, you have 2 minutes to answer the question, and you can take 30 seconds to combine and introduce yourself to the audience tonight and do it all in one time here, sir. Welcome.
Thank you. So my name is Trayon White. I currently serve as a council member of the Great Ward 8. I'm born and raised here in Washington, D.C., but like many that I grew up with, most of us didn't make it. And it's by the grace of God that I'm here sitting to be a council member today. I grew up in an era where, we struggled to achieve in our schools academically, because there was really a racial divide and an economic divide in a predominantly Black community. But there were people who intervened and gave me a chance to allow me to be where I am today, from ever indebted to my ancestors, those in my community, and those who gave me not a handout, but a hand up to get to where I am today. And so as an elected official, I'm running for mayor for Washington, D.C., because I felt that the equity in D.C., as we talk about, D.C. has grown and people clap about the economic improvement of D.C., but those around me who I see, feel, and touch, and interact with every day for being a council member don't feel that economic growth. And so it's imperative that we just don't talk about the problem, but we become a part of the solution. So that's where I'm running, because in every category, from health disparities to crime, to education, to economic improvement in households, we have fallen behind significantly in the last 10 plus years. And so we have to figure out a way to bridge that divide. And I have a plan to do just that as early as middle school, and creating a plan to get people involved, not just but through trades, but through entrepreneurship. So to answer the question,
Yeah, I don't want you to run out.
imperative that we,
Go ahead,
to answer
sir.
the question, it's imperative that we have full broadband in District of Columbia. We are currently living in what is called the digital divide, where we see affluent communities have access to internet and services and to infrastructure, while those who have not is gradually falling behind. And so I have a program called Seniors for Seniors, which is we seniors from high school interacting with our senior citizens, or seasoned citizens, as we say, to bridge the generational divide. And I have seen an increase in seniors using our modern technology during the pandemic. I must say that, doing gaming, bingo, ebooks, etc. But I think that we have a unique opportunity to also bridge the generational divide by using our technology to allow people to talk, communicate, and get that older and younger wisdom collaborating in the room while we teaching each other. And so Seniors for Seniors is a program I'll be implementing as mayor, and hope we can expand that throughout the district. Thank you.
And thank you. Denise.
All right, thank you. We're going to change the topic now to health disparities, as Councilmember Tran White just mentioned. And so the question reads, healthcare spending in the district has been consistently higher per capita when compared to other states. This level of spending may suggest residents are sicker, particularly residents of color. We do not know how much of this circumstance is a direct result of the district's healthcare system, but we do know that health is shaped by many conditions of a community. Disparities in educational outcomes, access to jobs with livable wages, access to healthy and affordable food, and environmental conditions may help explain poor health. If elected, starting with you, Councilmember Robert White, if elected, what policies would you put forward to reduce racial and ethnic disparities in access to affordable, high-quality healthcare? You have 2 minutes to answer, sir.
I appreciate the question. There are several things that we're going to do. And first, and this goes back to our previous question about access to fresh foods. The best approach is a preventative approach. So when we have communities that have access to healthier foods and outdoor activities, we're going to have a healthier community that needs less medical and especially emergency services. We're building a hospital in Ward 8 right now, which I applaud the work on it. What we need, though, is to continue this work to focus on creating a network, because not everyone who has a health need needs to go to a hospital. So we have to focus on investing in community clinics and in urgent care. So we're creating a network, particularly east of the river. After that, as mayor, I'm going to focus on incentivizing doctors to open their practices in Ward 7 and Ward 8, where we don't have enough local doctor's office, general practitioners, pediatricians, so that people don't have to travel across town to get medical attention. Finally, I'm going to, again, use a technology focus to expand access to telehealth, because people don't have to travel for all of their medical needs these days, but we do have to make sure that we have a healthy telehealth network and that people across our city have access to it. This is not sort of physical health, but we have to focus on mental health as well, because they go hand in hand. And so we're going to have to do the same work when it comes to mental health services, opening up psychotherapy and other such offerings east of the Anacostia River. One of the things I'm working on right now in the budget, and I'm hoping I can get it done, is creating a program through the University of the District of Columbia that will allow residents to get their master's in social work or master's in counseling for free, so that we're creating a pipeline of mental health professionals who understand our city, who are from our city. But we have to fix that pipeline because COVID has shined a light on significant mental health issues in our communities. I'm glad that the light has been shown on this, but what it has done is strain the resources. And so I'm going to open up the pipeline.
Thank you, Councilmember White. Mr. Butler?
Thank you, Ms. Barnes. This comes down to issues of transportation, food, outreach, and then access. I am one of the few candidates in the entire country running for mayor of a major US city that's proposing an entirely free transportation infrastructure. Also, I am a proponent and will bring expanding the streetcar. We know that access is one of the most important things, and we get that by transportation. We know that the equity divide between east and west of the river is real, and what it will get by providing a free transportation infrastructure is seniors being able to transverse back and forth to their doctor's offices, whether it's in the east or west of the river in the city. In addition, we have leaders that have led our city for a multitude of years. They have closed hospitals east of the river. They brag about having 1 or 2 full-service grocery stores east of the river. That's the type of failed leadership that DC residents do not lead, and that will not get us over the divide that we're currently seeing for our seniors, primarily Black and Brown, having health disparities. In addition, these seniors that are having these health disparities must understand that these resources are available to them. So we will have a very robust outreach system at our senior homes with our Department of Aging. And in addition to the transportation access, what I talked on earlier is access to food. And that being that we will ensure that Meals and Wills, that we partner with places and systems like Uber where they can deliver fresh food. And I can assure you, as mayor of this city, we will close the health disparities that exist. I can also assure you, voters, if you do more of the same, you're going to get more of the same. We'll be talking about these same problems 4 years from now if you elect one of these career politicians.
Mayor Bowser.
Thank you. So we have made really incredible investments in our healthcare system, and you pointed to a lot of social and environmental contributors to less than optimal health outcomes in the district. And I would add one, and that is just generational stress that we all know is associated with systemic racism. And a lot of the work and the health research points to less than optimal health outcomes in African Americans linked to this generation. What we have focused on, Denise, as you know, is finally fixing the problem of a high quality hospital east of the river. And I'm proud of the work that we have done. Very complicated to come to an agreement with an academic provider that is going to serve our residents in Ward 8. And so I'm pleased to say that not only did we come to that agreement, come to that deal, get it funded, but we have broken ground and a new hospital will be delivered in Ward 8. Part of that discussion was also how do we have a improved hospital, a new hospital on Georgia Avenue at Howard University, which is so important to how we train Black doctors and serve the African American community, not just in DC, but nationwide. And so I'm proud that DC taxpayers are a part of that solution. In addition, we're funding 5 centers of excellence at Howard University that will include a focus on sickle cell, on crime and violence, as well as on women and babies. So I'm very, very proud of that investment. And it's true that we need systems of care, not just hospitals. And that's why the arrangement that we have with GW Health will create 2 urgent care centers, one in Ward 7 and one in Ward 8. And we've also made critical investments in our 911 system, including a nurse triage line. So if residents have questions, they can call 911 and speak to a nurse.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. Councilmember White, Trayon White.
Thank you. While I will talk about what I do as mayor, the reality is I'm a current council member right now in this moment in Washington, D.C. And in 2017, we had what was called the Food Justice Walk that partnered with many community activists, social organizations, and community leaders that led us to the conversation about us doing something about us living in a food desert. We partnered with the mayor's office, Councilmember Gray, a number of other people to put money where our mouth is. And that's as a result of my leadership. And so now we do have an increase of 2 more added grocery stores in Ward 8. After only having one serving 80,000 residents, which was criminal. We are in the process. Just last week, I was at what is now called the Well, which is over 4 acres of fresh produce. I believe that we are agricultural people, and we can't wait for anyone to bring us food. We can grow food ourselves. And so I added money in the budget to keep that going, along with other nonprofits in the community. I believe that you are what you eat. And part of our health disparities is around education. I grew up when we had only a Murray Steaks, and we ate nothing but processed food, from bologna to chicken to steakums, oodles and noodles, and hot dogs. And so it's a part of our push in the community has been is about re-educating our people about what is healthy and what we can do to live longer. Because I know that diabetes and high blood pressure has crippled our community. It's an economic issue. It also speaks to the fact that those who earn the least, eat the worst. And so we have to strategically put our money where our mouth is and create a pipeline to get people more equitable wages in Washington, D.C. We're in the nation's capital. And some starting early as middle school to put people in a career path, a college path, and also entrepreneurship path to ensure they can get high living jobs in DC and own their own businesses was equally as important to be able to afford foods that are more healthier, cost more. Also, part of the policy is that our TANF policy is flawed. I met with seniors on numerous occasions, and they telling me, Mr. White, I'm only receiving $18, $19 a month to eat food on a fixed income. So that has to be fixed. I see I'm over my time, but I digress there. Thank you.
Thank you. And I mean, if there are answers, hopefully there'll be time at the end. If there's something you want to put in your closing remarks, you'll be able to add that. Louis?
Sure. Our next question has to do with the Older Americans Act and our LGBTQ plus communities here in the District of Columbia. The Older Americans Act requires the Department of Aging and Community Living to engage in outreach to the LGBTQ older persons here in the District of Columbia to collect data on their needs and to collect data on how they are meeting those needs, they being the District of Columbia government. DC law also says that both LGBTQ plus older persons and older people living with HIV are to be prioritized so that we don't leave them behind, either of those communities behind. Some states have LGBTQ plus targeted senior centers, targeted housing, and other welcoming home and community-based services and supports. Question: how will you ensure that the district is meeting the needs of the LGBTQ plus older people and older people living with HIV communities, both frequently underserved? First up is Mr. Butler.
Thank you for that question. My apologies. Yes, in fact, I know of this need. I was out with Whitman Walker volunteering today, and I appreciate the work that organization does and to further the needs for LGBTQIA seniors and others. One thing I have learned, and I have talked about with a number of people in the senior centers, that you've got people, everyone's thrown in the senior centers. We will, as mayor, I will focus on having exclusive senior centers that will cater to not only LGBTQIA persons, but also the health disparities and their needs. We can and we will partner with organizations like Whitman Walker that have provided tremendous outreach in our city. In addition to that, we will partner with organizations that provide food access where that may be a need. And I can assure you that gap that we have will be closed immensely under my mayoralty.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. Mayor Bowser.
Thanks. And it is a very important question that we have increasingly heard, that LGBTQ seniors want to make sure that whatever housing or programming that we're doing, that their needs are especially considered. We have made a hallmark of our administration investing in affordable housing, and that includes senior housing. And I'm proud that we have been able to deliver hundreds of units of senior housing. We've also invested in the HOPE vouchers, which are focused on LGBTQ seniors so that they can use those vouchers for safe and affordable housing. We know too that we have required diversity and inclusion training for all of our medical providers, so that as our LGBTQ residents are engaging with medical professionals, that they have culturally competent care being provided. We think that there's more to do in our recreation and senior space. For sure, there's been a lot more advocacy in recent years, and we're going to continue to work on how we can expand our network of senior facilities and senior housing facilities across the District of Columbia.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. Councilmember Trayon White.
Thank you. As a leader here in Ward 8, I want to expand my mission and vision to cater to the needs of seniors in general, but also specifically to LGBTQ seniors, and address the issues outlined in Older Americans Act. I did want to go on record to note that I introduced a piece of legislation that expands the use of housing specifically for LGBTQ seniors. It is our belief in our Ward 8 LGBTQ Commission that we are not doing enough in the district to address those needs amongst seniors in the LGBTQ Commission. And in Ward 8, we've opened up a house for youth and young adults. We've opened up a specialty center for transgenders. But I believe we have to do more to address the housing and health disparities amongst LGBT seniors. And as part of my plan to use that commission to expand throughout the district to get more buy-in and resources to address this issue with our older populations.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember at large, Robert White.
Thank you for the question. Our LGBTQ seniors have lived through a difficult time. They lived through the darkest, deadliest days of the HIV/AIDS pandemic, and many of them lost many friends and family members. They lived through a time where there was intense discrimination against LGBTQ people, and many of our seniors had to remain closeted during so much of their lives, only to find themselves older adults who are less likely to have children and family members who can take care of them. And so the needs are acute and are in some ways different than most of the other population. And so it needs special attention. That's one of the reasons that I work with my former colleague, Councilmember David Grasso, to pass the LGBTQ Health Data Collection Act, so that the government took a lead in asking the LGBTQ community, including seniors, what is it that you need for your health resources that we are not providing, so that we could provide those things, really making sure that we're listening to the community. That's the type of leadership you will see from me as mayor. I also have funded LGBTQ senior housing vouchers, again, because of the reason that there is more discrimination against LGBTQ residents and seniors. Many of them find themselves vulnerable, having to go back into the closet because they are living in spaces that are not affirming and in many ways abusive. And so we have to make sure that there is affirming housing across our city. And this also speaks to a general housing affordability issue. Our city has become wildly unaffordable. We were supposed to become a wealthier city to help the people who were being left behind. Well, the people who were being left behind are left behind even further now, despite having all the resources in the world. I'm going to be a mayor who's going to make sure the District of Columbia is a home for all people in every income, and a city that is safe and affirming for our LGBTQ communities, particularly our seniors.
Thank you, sir. Denise.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to thank those of you all who are putting questions in the chat, and we hopefully will get to those questions. I think we will, because we have, this is our last official question. And we're going to talk now about paid family leave. And Mayor Bowser, we're going to start with you with this question. Many family caregivers, new parents and workers with medical challenges struggle financially when they have to take time off from work to meet family needs. AARP has long called for additional paid leave protections to help support DC residents when they need to take time to care for a family or themselves. So Mayor Bowser, what would you do if elected or re-elected to ensure workers in the district can take the time needed to care for a loved one without losing income?
Well, we have, of course, a paid family leave law that's in place and actually was expanded, is being expanded because of the surplus of funds that is available. And I'm trying to remember now how many weeks were extended for people to take care of their individual health. But also for people to take care of family members. So we have, that is a program that focuses on, I believe the expansion takes it up to 12 weeks. I'm pretty sure the number is 12 weeks to take care of yourself or someone else. And so I think that will put us well within or in many cases certainly exceeding our neighbors and on par with what is available in the federal family leave program.
Right, Councilmember Trayon White.
Thank you. Yes, I am a strong supporter of universal paid family leave. In fact, I've seen families who struggled during this pandemic and had nowhere else to turn but to pay family leave just to keep them afloat during the time that we face, a disaster here and across America with housing and with jobs during the pandemic. And so I also read today that there's another proposal to amend the budget for more resources for paid family leave coming up next week. And so my history and my vote record speaks for itself. I've also always supported universal paid family leave and look forward to putting more dollars to ensuring that families are taken care of during some of their most troubled times. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Robert White.
I come from a family, as most people in the district do, where we can't afford to miss a paycheck and still be able to pay the bills, even if a family member gets sick or if we're giving birth. That is why I've been a consistent supporter of paid family leave and expanding paid family leave, something that is a plank in the National Democratic Platform, something that is pushed by AARP, and unfortunately something that has been opposed at every step by our current mayor. I believe that we have got to look out for everyday people in a city that is doing this well. We have to make sure that this is a city that works for everyone. Paid family leave is an essential policy for making sure that everyday people can make ends meet and take care of a newborn or an adopted child or a sick or aging loved one when those things happen, because it's not a question of if, it's a question of when, but we still need people to be able to pay their bills, operate their lives, and not lose their jobs. So as mayor, I'm going to continue to support and expand paid family leave just as I've done as a council member.
Thank you. And Mr. Butler.
Thank you, Denise. I appreciate the question. We will, as with everything, I will collaborate with our residents. I will work with our DC council, and I will ensure that we expand paid family leave. We are the nation's capital of America, a wealthy city, as I've said before. We have the resources, but we should also be the template for the rest of the country with regards to paid family leave. I understand there are some specific council members that have really pushed paid family leave. And as mayor of this city, I will continue to work with them until we lead the way in the country for paid family leave.
Okay, thank you. Lois, do we want to go to the?
Denise, if I could.
Did I miss you?
No, I was just asking for 30 seconds to rebut.
Oh, did Mr. Butler
Mention you by name?
mention you?
No, Mr. White did.
I'm sorry, please. You have-
Okay, thank you. So there was a statement made that I have fought paid family leave every step of the way, which couldn't be further from the truth. What I have fought every step of the way, and what every mayor will have to do to protect the district's taxpayers, is make sure that any program that we put in place is fair. And I have always questioned, and I will continue to push the council to address why DC taxpayers are paying for programs for Maryland and Virginia residents. That is my objection. And furthermore, why DC residents who work in Maryland and Virginia cannot avail themselves of the paid family leave program that district businesses are paying for. Similarly, DC residents who work for the federal government cannot avail themselves of the DC paid family leave program. So as a person who is a mom of a toddler, who I'm raising on my own, and who's the daughter of two 80-year-old parents, you don't have to tell me how important it is to be able to have time off to care for family, especially when they reach their senior years. But as the mayor who's responsible for making sure that we're fiscally stable city that can make the huge investments that we're making, we have to make sure our programs are fair and sustainable.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. And thank you for bringing that to my attention.
In case you missed it, if a candidate invokes the name of a candidate to your left or right here on the screen, that candidate gets 30 seconds to rebut. We're now going to try to move around to a variety of questions that are coming in from the audience. And Denise and I will take turns at these. For the viewing audience, if you see us doing this back and forth stuff, it's because we've known each other for a long time. And well, this is what goes on camera and off camera. Yeah, we don't mind you seeing it all. So here's some of the questions we're getting. One is, if you are elected, and we'll go in the order here: Butler, Mayor Bowser, Councilmember Trayon White, and Councilmember Robert White. If you are elected, will you support opening senior wellness centers in wards 2 and 3? For our audience and anyone here who is answering the question might want to first affirm that there is not now a wellness center in wards 2 and 3 when you answer. Mr. Butler.
Just so I understand your question, Mr. Davis, are you asking me to affirm that there are not wellness centers in wards 2 and 3?
Correct, if you can. The questioner is asking, if you are elected, will you support opening senior wellness centers in ward 2 or 3? It could be that there are some and they want additional ones, or that there's not now a senior wellness center, and these are the district senior wellness centers.
I will support any wellness centers, Mr. Davis. And thank you so much. I'm a guy that runs about 40 miles a week and a fitness buff. I'm close to 50 years old. And I know as you age, the importance of aging well, aging healthy. And so absolutely would support that in every way possible. Also, I really do hope to be your next mayor. I will say this, there's been very little polling done, which I find bizarre. But I would say that the Washington Informer did an informal Twitter poll, and I came in leading all the candidates, including the current mayor. I am looking forward from day one to lead this great city, not only making it a healthy city, but making it one of the safest cities in the country.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. You almost confused me. I thought you were making your closing statement. Hold on to that. You're going to get a chance to make your closing statement. Next up is Mayor Bowser. And to you, the same question. If you're re-elected mayor, will you support opening senior wellness centers in wards 2 and 3?
Yes, so there is not currently a standalone centers in Ward 2 and 3, but there's a lot of senior programming, and we also have some roaming senior programming. And I've heard loud and clear that folks want a standalone center like we have in the district's other 6 wards. So I will work with our agencies on finding the right location and making that investment.
Councilmember Trayon White.
Yes, thank you. Well, in general, I have supported expansion of the centers throughout the district. I guess I just heard from Mayor Bowser that they do have one in those wards. I'm not sure there's one in each ward, but in general, if there's an appetite for it, I think it's upon us as leaders, especially as me as the mayor, to ensure that we address the needs of residents. I think we haven't done enough of that currently. And so my job is to listen and take action. And so if that's the appetite and there's a need for that, absolutely, I want to support those residents with the wellness center.
Thank you. And Councilmember at Large, Robert White.
Thank you. We do not currently have standalone senior wellness centers in wards 2 and 3. I have and will continue to support creating those senior wellness centers, because I visit them and I recognize what a community center they are for our seniors, for health and wellness, physical health and mental health, for recreational activities. It's where many of our seniors get food from. There are so many resources that go to our senior wellness center, and we need broader programs, no doubt, but we must have standalone senior wellness centers in every ward, because our seniors are transportation challenged, many of them. And so the closer we can put our senior wellness centers to where our seniors are, the better it'll be for them.
Thank you. Denise?
Yes, okay. So our next viewer in the chat asked the question or searched that the city is lacking in senior engagement initiatives. And so are any of the candidates, they're asking, considering an initiative to support this effort to find ways to engage seniors, any initiatives you may have to engage seniors? So Mayor Bowser, your thoughts?
Well, for sure. And I started off talking about how do we find the isolated seniors? Because I think that is a real challenge. Seniors who are engaged are really engaged. So they go to their wellness centers, they go to recreation centers that have senior aerobics and other activities. They participate in the DACL activities like the holiday party and the big June picnic, and they really participate and they are aware of programs and services. However, I can go knock on doors or any block in a lot of places in the city, and I'll find a senior who is aging on her own, usually, who may be able to keep up with bills and meals and housing repairs, but oftentimes needs a lot of help. That's why we started the Safe at Home program, to be able to support seniors that need minor repairs. We've helped over 6,400 people keep their homes safe so they can age in place. And they've averaged about $5,000 each in the grant dollars that they've received. We've used those grant dollars to help seniors put up home security cameras that also helps keep them safe. And we have also expanded our discounted transportation services, the Senior Connector Rides. So all of those things are meant to help us identify seniors who are living in isolation, help keep them connected to services like food and the new iPads that we delivered to them as well. We are always looking for new ideas to connect to people. Oftentimes our seniors who are already using our programs are our best ambassadors to keep people connected. And the last thing I'll say is other seniors have told us that one way they want to stay connected is through employment. So our Department of Employment Services also has a focus on seniors who want to work.
Councilmember White, Trayon White.
Yes, as a council member, I strongly supported making the Office of Aging an independent agency. I think that we just have to do what we normally do, right? In election season, we know how to find out seniors. It's ironic that after election season, we are acting as if we can't find seniors. We know where they are, we know where they live, and they're calling our offices every day, reaching out to us, trying to be have a stable place in this community. And as a young man, I'm raised by my grandmother and several other grandmothers in my community. So I have nothing but respect and reverence for those who paved the way for me, even be a council member today. And so it's imperative that one thing that Marion Berry told me, he said, take care of your seniors and the babies. And so we have an obligation and a mandate to do just that. So I'm committed to doing that as mayor and look forward to expanding the Office of Aging.
Councilmember Robert White.
Thank you. If we want to know how to best help and engage our seniors, we have to engage them. I was at Victory Square in Ward 7 2 weeks ago, and I told them I was going to work on transportation. They said, well, that's good, but there are too many places that aren't accessible for us. And so I said, look, I understand the mandate there. We've got to make sure that our city is fully accessible for our aging population. But seniors tell me all the time that they want to be able to help. They have skills that they have developed over a lifetime, that they still have time and energy, and they want to give back. We have to create something for our seniors to plug into so that they are pouring into our community, helping us into the next chapter of this race for the city. And seniors play a very valuable role. Most of us have been blessed to realize at this point that there are no new problems. And so we are better off if we're engaging, getting the wisdom from our seniors. But I do hear from a lot of seniors that they want to work. They're facing significant discrimination in the employment sector. That's why I introduced a bill that would match a federal tax credit if employers hire people with the highest barriers to employment, including our seniors. That's something that I really want our council to pass, and I want our city to fund, because we have to help our seniors get their foot in the door in a job market that is increasingly discriminatory against seniors. We also used to have in the city a program. We used to partner with a nonprofit that assisted seniors specifically with employment. We stopped doing that. And I got to tell you, the Department of Employment Services is not doing a good job right now of getting our seniors employed. As mayor, I'm going to make sure that we are focusing on this so that seniors who want to work and they reach out to the Department of Employment Services, get assistance in getting into the workforce, and where necessary, getting the training they need to be a part of this workforce as well.
Thank you, Councilmember White. Mr. Butler?
My opponents all have a combined total of nearly 30 plus years in DC government, and we're still talking about a problem that we shouldn't be talking about. I want to ask the voters to really think very deeply what you're hearing. You're talking with our current city leadership, the mayor and 2 council members, and we don't have a large city government. We have 13 council members and a mayor, and certainly ANCs. And we're still talking about problems that should have been remedied a long time ago. Yet you have private residents like me that are relegated to going to almost every senior citizen building in the city and delivering food by partnering with Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and those sorts of things, when should be the job of the government to engage them. As your mayor, I promise you from day one, we will work with and create one of the most robust outreach to our seniors. So when you go in the home and you tell them about the programs, that we're not overly programmatic and they don't know about these programs. The only way we can do it is double up on our Department of Aging to ensure that we have adequate outreach. We've got a $20 billion budget, and we've got 3 folks on this call talking about problems that should have been remedied a long time ago in one of the richest cities in America. Let's solve this stuff.
Thank you, Denise, and thank you to the candidates. Mr. Butler, I'm going to come to you. You'll get 2 minutes to answer, and each of your opponents will get 30 seconds to respond if they choose to your answer. And the question about healthcare disparities, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm paraphrasing, one suggestion you made was that you would make totally free transportation system. How would you pay for this, sir?
I would, and I proposed this before at the transportation. We will work with our state partners and federal partners to ensure DC functions as a state, but of course it's not a state. We know that many states where there's a burden on its infrastructure can place tolls. The only way that we can do that is by ensuring that we hike the fare for Metro on those persons using it from Maryland, Virginia, but also any other jurisdiction. We have millions of visitors that come to DC every year from around the country and world that want to see and use our museums and those sorts of things and other things in the district. That puts a heavy burden on our infrastructure. To raise the fare with the partnership with our sister states by 50 cents or $1 would more than pay so that every DC resident can ride for free, as opposed to these $100 vouchers that are going to clearly be problematic that council's proposing. Make the entire thing free. Let's operate as a world-class city while we pursue statehood.
Thank you. And if the candidates would like to respond, you can in this order. Councilmember Robert White, do you have a response?
I do. And my colleague does a lot of criticizing of government experience, but government experience is what makes me know that this is not a workable plan, even in the slightest. Sounds a lot like when Donald Trump said he was going to build a wall and make Mexico pay for it. Look, it's just not in the cards. It's not reality. We run a tri-state system. You raise the fare, folk from Maryland and Virginia aren't going to take it. They're not going to be able to take it. The system is going to fail. That's why I've supported what my colleague Charles Allen has proposed, $100 for all DC residents to incentivize people onto public transportation. This makes our system more robust, gets cash into the system so it can operate better, and gets more people out of cars. So it's a reasonable way of operating this.
Thank you. Councilman Trayon White, you have a response?
Well, I just want to say applaud you for this wishful thinking, but as we know, it's about implementation, and I just don't see how this is going to be reality, and where you're going to find the money from to fund this. And so, I think that Mr. Butler has a lot of lofty ideas. I mean, you know, going into office, most do, but being an experienced legislating leader, you know that you have to be able to fund things and work across the board to get a consensus and getting things done. And I just don't see how that's going to come to reality, but that's just me.
Thank you, Councilman Trayon White. And Mayor Bowser, you have a chance to respond.
Sure. Let me just say that I had the idea when the first time I ran for mayor, it walked into so many families who are spending $60, $90 a month sending their kids to school because they had to buy a $30 a month voucher, a Metro voucher. And when I learned, and it was in neighborhoods that Councilmember Trayon White represents, that house after house, people were telling me their kids were using the bus and needing to spend $30 a month. So I created Kids Ride Free. So I actually have the experience of making Metro Bus and Metro Rail free for DC residents and kids. And I actually don't think what Mr. Butler has said about reopening the Metro contract, while I don't know that we would be able to make transportation free, we do need to look at our arrangement with Maryland and Virginia to make sure that DC residents aren't being shortchanged. But just adding $100 voucher a month to what we already pay, which may be unfair, is not the way to go.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. Denise.
Thank
you all.
We have just come through a very devastating period, not only in DC, but in this country and around the world as it relates to the COVID pandemic. And we know that the greatest impact has been on people of color, particularly African Americans and seniors. And then Mayor Bowser, you even talked about how seniors are isolated, but during the pandemic became even more isolated. We hope we don't see this again, but if we do, what would you all do differently in retrospect that would make sure that our seniors are taken care of should this pandemic return? And Councilmember White, I'll start with you. Trayon White.
Thank you, Ms. Barnes. Well, it is our prayer that it does not happen. But I think that this past experience caught everyone off guard because we've never ever experienced anything like this. I know in my lifetime. And so there are a lot of takeaways. One of the things we need to do is make sure we have an open line of communication with our seniors who are disengaged, may not living in a senior home, or who don't have access to social media or internet. One of the things that we've done during this pandemic was that we fed about 970 families a day because we knew that during this economic crisis as well, that people had to choose between getting their medicine or their food. And so if I was to do something different, I would have more stronger federal and local partnerships with food banks to ensure that, we can address the food inadequacies during this time. Also, the healthcare, we noticed that even during the pandemic, this administration, along with the council, has been going back and forth around our residents health insurance, which is not wise because we are forced to switch people's health insurance during a pandemic, and they're forced to switch their primary care physicians and doctors. And so we must be forth thinking. And it is my vision as the mayor to make sure we have a strong vision to ensure that we don't go through this again with measures in place, and also having the right people in place in leadership in the Department of Health and through our deputy mayors. And I do want to go on record and say, I honestly don't think the mayor did a bad job during this pandemic, but there's some takeaways I think that we could have done better, which I listed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Robert White.
No one could have predicted or planned for the pandemic when it came, and every day of this pandemic, we've gotten smarter and we learn more. And so we can't go back in the time, but we can be smarter going forward. So as mayor, I'm going to do an after action report on our pandemic response to understand what we could have done better. One of the things I suspect that we'll get out of that is we should be creating better lines of communication to our seniors during the good times, so that if we need to reach them during a difficult time, or if we have to go back into lockdown, God forbid, we will have more easy access to our seniors, utilize technology, but also non-technology needs, sending people to their homes to really create a catalog, a database of seniors so we can reach them when we need them. But the other thing that we've learned from the pandemic, we were very slow to get testing sites east of the Anacostia River, and then we were very slow to get vaccination sites east of the Anacostia River. And so we're going to have to be really focused on how we deploy those resources in the future. I think that the city, the mayor as well, did a good job pulling together, addressing this difficult crisis. But there are things that we can learn from it. It is incumbent upon us to learn those things so that should this happen again, we are fully prepared.
All right, Mr. Butler.
Just want to use a couple of seconds to reference the transportation question that was asked, so that the voters can deeply think about this. We've heard two councilmen specifically say it can't be done. That's the type of a blind bureaucracy that one acquires after years and years of serving in government, and that's all they've done. So this city needs a mayor who can see the possibilities of what can be done. I want to focus on now the question with regards to COVID. Hopefully we're on the other side of COVID. I will say this, for any leader in this country, it would have been a difficult time to lead a major US city. And so to that end, we can't criticize the mayor entirely on that. I think it would have been hard for anyone. What I would have liked to seen done differently is us focusing on our mental and behavioral health issues amongst our seniors and the population at large. We know that suicides and other mental health issues went up during that time. What I believe I would have done during that time is ensure that those vulnerable populations were looked after more deeply, so that mental behavioral health issues were not exacerbated by COVID, which they were. Again, when you're given a hypothetical about something that probably no leader on the planet has seen before, you have to be deferential to the leader that handled it.
Mayor Bowser.
Well, first, thank you. And I want to thank my colleagues for their kind words. And while a lot of people weren't thinking about the possibility of a global pandemic, our Department of Health was. And I have to say how proud I am of them. I'm especially proud of Dr. LaQuandra Nesbitt, DC's doctor, who's been exemplary in leading a team of professionals that set up the best in the nation testing program, where we were the first in the region and first in many places in the nation to have rapid testing resources, to deploy in fire stations, to have free testing at our library. So I'm very proud of the work that our team did, and I have no doubt that it saved lives. And the infrastructure that we put in place will save lives too. And we, of course, will be introspective about those efforts to make sure that any lessons learned to improve a pandemic response or any crisis response, quite frankly, we will learn from and we will implement. I'm also proud of the work that we did to provide relief funds to our businesses who were struggling and our people who were out of work. One thing you asked that we might do differently or focus more on, especially when it comes to seniors, is caregiver support. Caregiver support in general is important and a focus of the Department of Aging and Community Living, but especially during the pandemic, when caregivers couldn't get in and out of homes. In some cases, caregivers were staying with our residents who needed support in making sure that we are providing respite support for caregivers like my mom, who's a caregiver, and also making sure that we are attracting the best and the brightest to do this work. And that is one subject of the task force that I just impaneled with Dr. Nesbitt to make sure we're paying people fairly, training them and recruiting them to work with our senior population.
Thank you very much. George?
Well, if you see me looking at my watch, it's because I'm looking at my watch and I'm trying to see what time we have, and if we have time for any more questions from the audience. And to our viewing audience here, you can still put questions into the chat. We'll collect them as best we can. We can't promise you an answer back from the candidates, but we certainly will receive them here at AARP and the Washington Informer. We do have a voter guide coming out. We'll find a way to tease out some of your questions, but we may be done with audience questions from the audience because we promised our candidates 2 minutes to close. And the closing order, I tell you, if you guys promise to stick to your 2 minutes closing, I'm gonna try to squeeze in this question, but I need you to just give one specific policy, just one. You may have 10. Just name one specific policy. What policy would you, the candidates, consider to engage? This question comes from a questioner in the audience. The tween population, they're saying 10 to 12-year-olds. I'd argue 9 to 15. The youth within this age range have been associated with a few high crime matters within the city, within the District of Columbia. This is critical to neutralizing the gun violence and other violence matters that sometimes doesn't involve a gun. One specific policy with the summer coming here, like across the country, name one policy that you would implement as mayor that would help give these youth other opportunities to resolve conflict and maybe bring down gun violence in the District of Columbia. And we're going to start with Mayor Bowser.
We're focused on safe places for young people. We've started already with 24-hour recreation days at our DPR facilities. We started Turkey Thicket, we've been to Deanwood, and we're going to go across the city. But I think we're also exploring how to expand that beyond the four walls of a recreation center.
Thank you. And that was a model answer for the rest of our candidates. One specific policy in just as short a time. Mr. Butler?
I have proposed a long time ago 24-hour recreation centers that act as safe passages. I've said it in every debate. Quite frankly, this is the first time I've heard the mayor mention something about it. But at any rate, these would act as safe passage centers and resource centers so that kids that feel there's an issue coming up, there's an issue they need to talk with someone about, that they have a place to go. This is a model that's been used in other major US cities and will absolutely work here.
Thank you. Councilmember Robert White.
Expanding trade and vocational education, which is one of the planks in my education platform. And I hope people will check out my extensive, comprehensive public safety policy on my website, robert4dc.com.
Councilmember Freon White.
Introduced a bill that speaks directly to this, which is mentor access for all. And this is a thought for me growing up in a city, knowing that those young people who are most at risk have some similarities: lack of access to quality food every day, broken families, living in some of the poorest living conditions. But it wasn't for the grace of God and somebody intervening and mentoring me and giving me another direction. And this will be more career-based mentoring. We're doing a pilot program right now in Ward 8, and it's my hope to desire to expand that throughout the district, because sometimes people become what they see. And so it's imperative for us as adults to put people in front of these young people they can model after, not just what they're showing on TVs and the music videos and through the music.
Thank you, Councilmember White. And Mr. Butler, you gave the mayor 30 seconds. Madam Mayor, if you want to respond.
I hadn't intended to respond, but I just want to call Mr. Butler's attention to the good work that DPR is doing around 24-hour recreation.
Thank you. Now the closing statements, and the closing statements are in this order. And these are drawn randomly as were the opening statements. Mr. Butler will go first, Robert White, Councilman Robert White next, Councilman Trayon White, and Mayor Bowser last. Mr. Butler, you have 2 minutes.
I want to thank all the district residents. I want to thank the AARP and Informer for this debate. And I also want to thank our wonderful moderators, Ms. Barnes and Mr. Davis. And most importantly, I want to thank the district residents for giving me a bit of your time. I'm James Butler, running for mayor. I am the only non-career politician running. You have heard from us extensively tonight, and you have heard about what can be done and what can't be done. We have over 30 plus years of combined government leadership, and we're still talking about the problems in the district. I appeal to you, the voters. If we do more of the same, you will simply get more of the same. We have crime at a 20-year high. I have promised that I will make DC one of the safest cities in America. And I'm asking that you check out my plan at butler4dc.com. I have a solid plan to deliver deeply affordable housing. I have a solid plan to nix our homeless crises for all. And I'm promising every one of you that I will make our schools make the grade. I did talk about the informal polling that was done by the Washington Informer via Twitter. I am happy to say that I came in leading every single candidate, including the current mayor. And the question posed to voters was, if the election was held today, who would you vote for? And I overwhelmingly had that support. What's clear to me as I traverse this great city, DC wants a new mayor. That is why on June 21st, I am asking for your vote. Butler4dc.com. Thank you. God bless you all. And God bless the soon to be 51st state.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. Councilman at Large, Robert White, you have 2 minutes to close.
Again, I want to thank everyone who's joined, given their time this evening. Very much want to thank AARP and the Informer, and I want to thank our moderators. Here's the deal. Most people who were struggling 8 years ago are still struggling now, despite having record-setting budgets every single year. That's because we have a mayor who has not been intensely focused on our people and our communities that have been left behind. More than that, we're moving in the wrong direction. Our city has gotten increasingly unsafe. Our schools are failing Black and brown students, where 60% of Black and brown students are behind grade level in our schools. This is an urgent crisis, and people can't afford to live here. As someone who has seen his entire family almost priced out of this city, this is an issue that we have to take more seriously. Here's what we know. Third terms for mayors are generally not where significant progress happens. As mayor, I'm going to bring new energy into our city. I'm going to make sure this is a city where seniors feel like they are still welcome, a city that they recognize. I'm going to make sure that our agencies are led by the best and brightest leaders, that we are focused intensely on people and solving problems, no gimmicks, but policy and people. We are running a strong campaign. We have raised about $1.5 million. We have a larger campaign infrastructure than any campaign, and people in this city want to change. I'm asking for your vote on June 21st. We have significant work to do in our city. What we need now is a problem solver, not 4 more years of the same, but someone who is going to move our city to the next level. I'm asking you again for your vote. I want to thank you again and wish everyone a great weekend.
Councilmember Ward 8, Trayon White.
Thank you. So I want to thank AARP, the Informer, and those who made this opportunity possible, where the residents of the district can hear from those candidates they have to elect on June 21st. My name is Trayon White. And one thing you know about me is I've always been a fighter for equity and inclusion in Washington, D.C. Everything rises and falls on leadership. And my leadership has been consistent on the front line, in the trenches, advocating for what we need in our city. We're at a time in history where we can't afford to be home. In the last election, only 18% of the population came out to vote, 18%. And when we look at what's happening around us, if we don't do anything, then that's our fault. because my motto is don't just stand there, do something. And I'm just not running for mayor with no track record. My track record is public information. You'll see that in this budget in 2023, I put an additional $50,000 in there for LGBTQ affairs in their office. You'll see that when we built Reunion Square and there was discrepancy about how seniors are going to move in the project, I created a bill that moved money from the DC Office of Attorney General doing a lawsuit to put $1 million for housing for seniors in that. So it's about being creative, and it's about being intentional about helping everyday citizens in Washington, D.C., not just developers, not just rich people, not just wealthy people, but all people. And so my track record speaks to that. And so on June 21st, or go now, you can mail your ballot in right now. Go on the ballot, you're going to see Trayon on Washington, D.C. White was a real representation of putting people over politics. Don't just stand there, do something. Thank you. God bless.
And Mayor Bowser, 2 minutes to close.
Well, thank you to the informer. Thank you to AARP. Thank you to our moderators and to my fellow colleagues. I am proud to have served as your mayor. I am proud of the work that we have been able to accomplish together. And I am proud that we have been able to stick together these last 2 years in an unprecedented time in our city. You do have a very important choice on June 21st and all the days up to June 21st. And I suggest to you that you have to pick a proven leader. We have certainly heard a lot of complaints tonight about things that people feel that they could do differently, but what we haven't heard is a lot of evidence of why we should believe that they have the know-how to do anything differently. I was always taught that the best predictor of a person's future behavior is their past behavior. That is why it's so important that we examine our records. My record on delivering for seniors has been well stated. I am proud of the work that I've done as mayor with Safe at Home and transportation resources and single family rehab program. I'm proud of the work that I have done around senior property taxes. As a council member, I increased the number of people who would be eligible for the senior property tax. And in this budget, I advanced to the council. I have limited the property tax increase from year to year from 5% to 2%. That would affect any DC senior. So that is the type of focus that I have had on you for the last 8 years. And that's the type of focus I will continue to have. I've also heard from seniors that they want me to keep my foot on the gas when it comes to their public safety and make sure we have the police that they need. I'm willing to take that tough call. My opponents haven't been willing to do that. I'm also going to stand up for DC, just like I did with Donald Trump or with this Congress when they tried to take advantage of us. I'm going to make sure we get our fair share. So I'm asking for your vote on June 21st.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. I'm going to turn to my colleague. Some announcements to make too.
Yes, we do. First of all, before we make any announcements, though, I want to thank all of the candidates for being with us this evening. I know that you all have been on the campaign trail. You've had lots of these candidates forums. You've been asked questions inside out and sideways. And I just appreciate the fact that, you're, no matter what happens, you have proven that you want to serve this community and done so. And so we truly appreciate that. I also appreciate the shout out Mr. Butler's been given the Washington Informer. I don't know if I would necessarily rely on that informal and scientific poll, Mr. Butler, but thank you for shouting out the Washington Informer. We definitely appreciate that. And, I just want people to remember what's coming up. I hope folks are registered to vote. I think registered to vote, Councilmember White, Trayon White definitely talked about the importance of us engaging and voting. We have a primary coming up on the 21st.
Yeah.
And Louis?
Yeah, and I want to add that it's often misunderstood. June 21st, the date of our primary, that's the last day to vote, not the first day to begin to vote. It's the last day to vote. In the District of Columbia, voting is probably about as easy as it can be anywhere in the country. Early voting starts June 10th and runs to the 19th. And every registered voter has already began to receive, or you will receive in the next few days, a ballot mailed to your home. So Denise, we have some of the best voting opportunities I think the rest of the country should model what we do here in DC. People have a lot of ways to vote, and I will be volunteering as a site coordinator. Again, I did it in 2020, so I hope to see you at Barnard Elementary School, which is where I'll be, because it takes volunteers to make that system work. And like Denise, I too, I think you guys did a great job tonight. I wish each of you individually and collectively the best of luck. Denise?
Yeah, well, that's it. I will just say one more thing, and we thank you all for your participation. AARP and the Washington Informer will be publishing a voter guide on June the 2nd. So if you pick up a copy of the Informer, you'll have these questions and many more that the candidates would have had an opportunity to answer, not only the mayor, but all of the candidates that are going to be on this ballot, and there are many positions. So the most important thing is to be informed, stay informed, know the issues, know the candidates' position on those issues. You can always go to their websites, and we want to make sure that you feel confident in the choice that you make, but make a choice.
Good night, everyone, and stay safe.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.